What's up, guys? We have another game. The black pieces against quiet as kept. 1205. They open up with basic queen's pawn opening. I challenge that with c5 on move 2, as you often see in my videos. And if they don't take or push past, we often take. So we'll just take. He takes with the knight. We'll then challenge the knight with our own, fighting for the center, developing a piece. He goes b3. What's the idea? To fianchetto the bishop and develop another piece. What's the drawback? Well, creates a little bit of light dark square weaknesses. It's our move. We're actually going to challenge his fianchetto with our own. So now that this diagonal is secure, we don't have to worry about it. And we're ready to castle. And then we can decide, what we want to do with our centers and both of our pawns, our E pawns and our D pawns. Do we want to just go d6? Do we want to push them 2 squares? So he goes bishop c4. This eyes the f7 square. What's the drawback of this move? Well, it encourages us to go d5 because it's a tempo move, and it gains space in the center while opening up the bishop's diagonal. So white moves the bishop. This pins the knight. So now there's some pressure on the knight. It's being hit twice, so we need to do something about that. I'm going to throw in this check with my queen. It kind of develops a piece, but it's really to, let's say, force a knight here, something like that. Put a little pressure here. That way when I put my bishop here, okay, he doesn't do that. Instead he puts his bishop here, which is a little weird because it takes away the square from the knight, and it puts the bishop out of its cubbyhole, so it's a lot more vulnerable. But it hits the queen with tempo, so it forces me to move my queen. So now I'm going to go back to c7, which controls the center as well as defends the knight a second time. And now I'm going to say this is misplaced, that it should probably go back. So I'm happy with the couple moves that just happened. Black's position is solid. He has no development issues. All the pieces are, have good squares. I'm going to castle, and then I'm going to bring my light square bishop out. So white castles, we can castle, and we don't just castle, it also removes the pin, right? So that's important to remember, that's the knight can move now. For things like taking, if we want it, which we don't want. I feel like a move like knight e5, not sure what it does there. It looks cool though. A move like e5 has to be considered. He has to move the knight. Let's say he takes and you take and he moves the bishop and you push through with d4. So he develops his knight to one of its only squares. Maybe it's going to reroute through this way. That makes a little sense. So it's a little more encouragement to take the knight before it's supported by another knight. We also have e5. We also have a6. Maybe, what else do we have? Rook d8 maybe. a6, takes. Let's see if he gives up his light square bishop. a6 won't hurt us. It's always a useful move as black to control that square. And it's a tempo move. Maybe he'll give it up, or he'll go back to e2. Okay, he doesn't. He goes here, but this kind of, all these pieces here They look like they walk into pawn moves. I want to do it. I'm gonna do it. Let's go full on in the center. E5, D5 as black. There you go. So his knight was under pressure. So he takes. We take with the pawn, which maintains our center, and the queen defends this pawn. And now he's white, but we have a nice pawn center. The board's starting to open up. And he walks what looks directly into this fork. He was threatening this, hitting it twice. Downside is this. He could counter with, let's say, bishop e5, hitting the queen. I move the queen, I don't know, literally anywhere. Okay, queen e7. And I win a piece. Let's go for it. Otherwise, he resigns. And that's why it's important to have one pawn in the center to generally stop your opponent's pawns. So he takes with the bishop, giving up his dark bishop, but I don't think this changes anything. We just take back. That was an even trade, but now we're hitting the rook as well. So that was a panic move. Doesn't do anything. Our position's way better now that we have the only dark bishop. And he's definitely extremely upset. You see it, don't you, guy? You see the rook hanging, the bishop hanging, the knight hanging, checkmate coming. Please resign. No, he does not. He blocks the rook's diagonal and removes a piece. I mean, it's a good move, all things considered, and, you know, considering you're going to lose a piece anyway. So the knight's pinned to the rook. So I'm going to go c5, which takes advantage of the pin. He cannot counterattack my queen. Therefore, I get to win the exchange if I want it. So that's very disheartening for him. But I'm not going to stop there. I want this guy to resign, so I'm going to try to use my light square bishop on one of these diagonals to really make him upset. But maybe now he sees, oh, the pin is on. He doesn't care. He just gives up a full knight. That's crazy. He takes back. He thinks he's still in the game. But he's not. So I'm going to sneak attack. I normally would not make this move, but because I'm up 4 points of material, I'm sneak attacking this in by just going a5. Also a4, not a bad move. Opening up the rook and getting rid of my weakness. So it's definitely a troll move, but it's not a bad move. But I think once bishop a6 hits the board, maybe now he might try this, but let's pre-move it so he gets discouraged. Let's pre-move this so he gets discouraged, that we knew what he was going to do. And it's still pinned. He actually has this at the end of the line. Still loses material though. See, we're reading his mind, we're in his head, so we're pre-moving so he knows we know that he knows. Not sure what he's thinking about. Your queen's under attack. He moves the queen. This guy's a big brain. Now what are you gonna do? I protect my queen. What are you gonna do now? I'm ready to take. And take. Let's see how he handles this. The complications. We got some nasty moves in store for him. We gotta get our rooks in the game, so we gotta put this guy somewhere. This guy's down 2 full bishops. I just wish he would lose faster. Can you move faster? Okay, so he moves the rook out of this diagonal onto its only diagonal. Whatever. I'm up everything. I'm just gonna trade stuff. I don't need to win more stuff. I'm up 2 bishops. That's plenty. So we're just gonna take the pawn so that we can open up the file that we're double stacked on. Infiltrate, trade some stuff, and have 2 bishops when he's gonna have nothing. So all you have to do there is not stalemate, but normally I have 10 seconds on my clock, but here I have 5 minutes, so good luck, right? Let's go here, offer a queen trade. Get into his encampment. So we can raid, loot, plunder, and pillage his village. And he takes, and now we're on the 7th, and life is looking good for us. So he pushes the pawn because he actually has only one source of counterplay, and that would be this pawn. Fair enough. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit this rook with tempo, and what we're doing is we're using that tempo to basically pick our bishop off the board and place it wherever we want. And so I'm putting it here, which is defended by a pawn. So basically my bishop is fully safe and never has to move from this perch, and it controls a good amount of squares from here, so I thought it was safe. And he can't move his rook with a counter tempo, so I'll move it somewhere, and then I can go here even, which is a kind of a bummer for him. Okay, so he goes all the way down here. Maybe he wants to get behind me. It's a reasonable try. He has some back rank issues, so he does need to be careful. Let's keep that in mind. This. So I am going to go here and put it on a defended square. It comes with another tempo. Now he does have a counter tempo if he wants it. He can get behind. But now this pawn is defended, so I can just move my bishop with a counter tempo. So he does attack my bishop, but I do have a counter tempo. That looks kind of nice. Let's go for the counter tempo. This pawn's defended. These guys are slicing through. So he goes here. Just hangs the rook. Pushes the pawn. Really, guy? We're going to put our bishop back here. Entice him to push once more. And then we're going to checkmate him. So he makes some room so he doesn't get checkmated. We go bishop here and say we're still going to do it. Ha ha ha. He says, well, guess what? I'll make a different escape square. But guess what? Still checkmate. Because he doesn't know his checkmate patterns. This, my friend, still checkmate. You guys see? The bishop supports the rook. The rook makes the triangle. And for the first time, I've had more time on my clock. So our opponent goes in the corner. We checkmate him. He resigns. Same thing. Um, we're gonna try to get in one more. He opens up with e4. We're against stockholder 1357. Higher rated opponent. They're definitely moving faster. We open up with g6. The PIRC defense. He goes d3. Pretty passive. Doesn't take full control of the center. Also leaves the dark square diagonal open for my bishop. He develops another minor piece, controls the dark squares. It's a pretty reasonable move, pretty strong as well. Well, I'm going to develop a knight. There's no downside in developing a knight towards the center. He develops his queen, preparing a long castle. That's one of the reasons I delayed castling a turn, just to see. Now that I know he wants to long castle, or I'm assuming he wants to long castle, I would go c6 to prepare b5. But his bishop's in a precarious situation, and I'm actually going to throw in the preliminary knight g4, hitting his bishop, and his bishop wants to go to h6 to trade for my bishop. That's the whole point of the battery and the long castle, to attack my king side by removing my defender, which is his bishop. So he doesn't want to trade, so he moves the bishop here. But now I'm going to put it on the wrong diagonal. He wants it on this diagonal to trade for my bishop. But I'm going to go h6, which means that, okay, so he keeps it still on this diagonal. He's insisting. I could insist by hitting it with one of my two pawns. Shall I do that? Let's close down my bishop, but it looks pretty decent. I guess we can leave it there for the moment. We're going to go c6. It opens up the diagonal for our queen to come into the game. It controls the square from his knight. It prepares b5 before. And if he kicks our knight, we have the central square, knight e5. Takes. So everything looks like it's being held together. He does spend a turn kicking the knight. And now we get to centralize it for free. He could have spent that tempo long castling or trying to do something more useful. You can argue h3 is somewhat useful, but... So now he pushes in the center. He doesn't castle still. What does this threaten our knight? What's the drawback? Well, he's still not castled, and we get the option of taking this knight. What else do we have? We actually can't go anywhere else. This is covered by his bishop. We kind of are forced to take, but it's not a big deal. We double his pawns. His d4 pawn is kind of targeted right now, and it's our turn. Our king is still not castled here, so I'm gonna go here and double attack the dark squares. Actually, long castle defends both. That's okay. Good thing he didn't see it, because I didn't consider that till after I moved. Long castling would have put a rook here defending, and the king defends. That would have been annoying. Instead, he makes this move, which looks really terrible because it weakens the dark squares severely. Also, this pawn was hanging, and I'm going to take it for sure. And if he trades queens, I have amazing pressure on the dark squares, and now it's almost an endgame, and his structure is worse than mine, and I'm up a pawn. So all those reasons are just bad for him. He tries to neutralize the pressure by bishop back. He still can't move his knight, so I'm not gonna relinquish the pressure, right? Instead, I'm gonna add to it by developing my pieces. I'm gonna move the knight away so my bishop can see stuff, and it comes with a threat. My bishop doesn't actually have anywhere good to go here, but still, at least my knight is attacking something. I said he couldn't move the knight, but he's proving me wrong. He doesn't want to defend this threat, so he says, I don't want to defend this threat either. Okay, I'm glad that happened. I wanted a short one. Okay, so we win another one for obvious reasons. I'm just going to take this with check. He's going to move. I'm going to take, he's going to take, and I'm going to free rook. Something like that. Either way, game's over. Simple, people are just blundering simple, like full pieces. And this guy's 1300 still, 1350. So we keep climbing, simple chess. I'll try to stop blundering my pawns, but no promises. Submit your rapid videos.